Shapes on the coordinate axes are a relatively minor topic. You'll see a few different question types in there. Talk about more of them in the book. I wanted to cover the one that people tend to have the most trouble on in this video. One note though before we get going on this, you'll see that parallelograms, both in the book and in the videos, are covered in plane geometry. One of their favorite question types is to put a parallelogram on a coordinate axis and ask you the area or the altitude if it's a relatively early question. So I kind of want to keep all the parallelogram stuff together, so I stuck it in there. Now, basically, what they're asking you here is what percentage of the total area lies in quadrant 2. So there's two things going on here. You got to be able to correctly figure out the dimensions and the area of the rectangle. Then you got to know which quadrant is quadrant 2. This is a great problem, or a great problem type, to really illustrate the value of a sketch. Even if you're as bad a sketcher as I am, I can't even draw a straight line. So it doesn't take too much to get this one right. Now, occasionally, especially if it's a triangle one of these, or if it's an early one, they'll even put it on a nice little grid and you can count boxes, or they'll put it on the axes for you. But a lot of times they don't on the tougher ones, and this is an example of that. So just kind of grid this out. So 3, 3, let's start there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Made that 3 a little bit too tall. Let's make that 4. Okay, there's 3, 3. Let's move it up a little bit. See, told you, not the best sketcher, but I'm still, sketcher's not even a word, but I'm still able to handle this one fairly easily. So we went from 3 to 3, negative 2. It'll be down here. And to negative 1, 3. That'll be about right here. And to negative 1, 2, negative 2. And that should do it. So be careful on this, because don't try to count using your hash marks how far away these are. Use the actual points themselves. I'm going to go so far as to write them down, just to make our discussion easier. And then we've got sorry, I'm talking to myself. Okay. For some reason I have a hard time doing that. So to find distance, we're just going to count up how far we go. We go from negative 1 to 3. That's negative 1 to 0. 1, 2, 3 is 4. You can do it that way. I mean, obviously you subtract to find difference. So negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. You can't have negative distance, so it'd be 4. Or 3 minus negative 1 is still 4. Either way is fine. We go from 3 to negative 2, which is a distance of 5. Okay. So our area of our total rectangle is pretty close to a square. Is 20, right? 4 times 5, length times width, is 20. Now let's label our quadrants. And remember, they go counterclockwise. Check out the stuff on quadrants if you want a refresher on that, especially when it comes to reflections and rotating things. 1, 2, 3, 4. So quadrant 2 is what we've got here. How many little blocks do we have here? Well, we're only going to have one column, right? Because we get from 0 to negative 1 of 1, 2, 3 blocks. So the area will be in quadrant 2, area, we'll just say subscript 2 is 3. And so what percent? Well, part over whole, 3 over 20 is 15%. Not too shabby, right? So this is a question type that shows up with surprising frequency. There's some weird, very hidden coordinate geometry shapes and question types that we're going to cover here and other places in the book. And kind of like inequalities, how there's those hidden inequality questions. As long as you can be fairly comfortable with this and start to recognize them, you should be fine. So spend a little time on practice. If it shows up, it's a good point to get because it's not a hard point to get.